Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Is your name Dom?
It is, yes. Yeah.
Hello, Dom. Good to
Isla,
see
right? Yeah.
Eileen, like come on Eileen, like the song.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want me to have a go at saying hello in German? I've been practicing my German a little bit.
100% I want to hear it.
Okay.
Go on.
Willkommen beim Filmemacher Podcast. Schauspielerin und Regisseurin Eileen.
Hello,
There we
Dom. That
go.
was amazing. That was
Yeah.
actually really impressive.
Okay.
Yes.
Mein
Did you learn
Bruder.
that just for this moment?
Yeah, well, a little bit, but I mean, obviously for this moment, but
Yeah.
mein Bruder lived in Deutschland, so I've learning
Okay.
a little bit of German. But whenever I've got a German to practice on, I try and come up with something special to
Yeah, you get it all out.
to make you feel welcome.
Yeah,
so
you're very welcome. Thank you.
so how's London? I mean, you've caught like the perfect London summer where it's not actually sunny, but it's very
Yeah,
hot and muggy and really fun to go on the tube.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really try to, as much as I can, avoid the tube whenever. I'm
Yes.
more the bicycle person or walking.
Okay, that's very German of
I,
you.
it's very German of me, I know, but I actually really, really love walking because then usually in London everything's very far away from each other. So you
Yes.
actually do walk for a long, long time, and then you can
Mm.
listen to podcasts,
Yeah.
like the Filmmakers
Let
podcast.
we'll get that. We'll take that soundbite out for.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
love walking around in London, especially because I mean you can get a lot of places within an hour,
yes.
and it's a great way to like. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's a great way, specifically walking, to have ideas versus sitting down or being inside. Like it's good for creative juices.
Oh, 100%. I'm really someone who loves to be in movement, let's say.
Mm,
Um, and I really feel like when I move, even just when I'm on the train,
mm,
but then still the train is moving. So whenever I'm traveling from A to B, I feel a lot of creativity flowing through me.
mm.
So yeah, that's definitely
Maybe you're
something.
on some kind of train of thought. Maybe that.
Maybe.
So I mean, congratulations on your film. I mean, I don't know. My first port of call when I look at a film and I think, is this going to be a good film? I look at the poster and I thought, hang on, this looks like it could be like one of these indie working title-y type, could be
Yeah.
surprisingly good. Because you never know whether in India if it's going to be like good or very good or exceptional. And you'll be pleased to know that when I watched it, I was delighted. Um,
Oh, hurrah!
and
Otherwise, it would be really embarrassing for the
we,
both of us now to have to go through this interview,
well,
you
yeah.
know?
I mean, we'll just talk about trains and walking
Exactly.
and
You would have
yeah.
probably just cancelled on me, so just
Yeah.
that you're here is already a good sign.
We'll just cut it off. But I mean, it really is. It's very hard to make an independent film, especially a drama. I'm always constantly told by different people you should never make drama. It's impossible to make drama at a high level. And this feels like a high level drama because the writing is really good, the performances are incredibly good. And it has a sort of, I don't know, there's just something like very polished and natural feeling about it. Also, one of my favorite places, the Isle of Skye.
There you
Um,
go.
I mean, just having a magical setting like immediately takes you on a journey. I always felt this. I did a movie in the German mountains when I was many years ago, and just by traveling somewhere magical, it does something to the movie.
But that's the difference. To you, the German mountains are magical,
Well,
whilst
that's true.
I go to Scotland to find the magic,
Yes.
apparently.
Well, there we go. I mean, it's the act of. I feel like there's something about the ambition and putting yourself and the crew and the idea away from your home immediately elevates your film, like wherever you're from. So
Oh,
let's talk
100%.
about how it started. Like, where did the inception of
Right.
the idea come?
Yeah, so I mean, I already shared with you that apparently I need to be on the move to for like creative things to burst out of me,
Yeah.
which is not
Hopefully, not
the
like Alien. Yeah.
no, but it's actually not the nicest thing for my German producers, because like obviously after I did Fall into Place, now they were like, okay, so what's next, and can we work together again? And I did say to them, yes, we can, but this time we will have to go to Scandinavia. And they were like, can you not just bring us something that we can finance in Germany? For Germany, it would make our life so much easier.
Yeah.
But no, to come back to your question, yes, for me, there's definitely a magic in the unknown.
Mm.
so to say, and to go to a place where I've never been before and just to see what that place does to me seems to be something that, yeah, awakens me on a different level. And in the case of Falling into Place, basically, I felt a pull to go to Scotland. I had never been there before. I didn't know why I wanted to go there, but I just kept having this like daydreamy notions of I have to go to Scotland. And then I did go there for Hogmanay,
Oh yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Edinburgh.
A classic one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I booked a bed and breakfast for 2 nights. And on the 1st of January, I sat down in a cafe in Edinburgh and I started writing the script.
Wow.
And I basically just went to the bed and breakfast person every 2 nights and asked for another 2 nights. And I did that for 3 weeks. And during that time, I then wrote the script. And
Wow.
I think because I was sitting in Scotland, the story starts in Scotland. The main guy in the story is Scottish, and yeah, basically the the aura of the place that I found myself in made its way into the story.
Mm.
Um, and then the Isle of Skye is something that came a bit later because of the fact that I didn't know anything about Scotland. In my script, I had written Scottish coastal town because I knew the story would be about two people meeting in a rather isolated place with
Yeah.
not a lot of people around, and I knew that the story would evolve and bring them both into London. I didn't
Mm.
know at that point yet how that will happen, but I didn't know where to place this Scottish coastal town. So by the time I had, producers and we were talking about locations, my producers were like, okay, so where is this Scottish coastal town? And I said to them, well, give me 10 days. And I grabbed a friend of mine because at the time I had my driving license, but I had never driven in the UK. And
Okay.
as you know, everything's on the
You're a
wrong
good,
side. And
good German driver though.
exactly, I'm a very, very good German driver, but
Good
I
at the
wasn't at the time
autobahns.
in
Yeah.
the UK. Yeah. And I had this adventurous friend who was like, "Yes, let's do a road trip. Let's try to find your place
Amazing.
in your story." And then obviously when we stepped onto the Isle of Skye, there
Hmm.
was just no doubt because, there's a magic in the light, in the fog. There's some melancholy. There is something very poetic and dreamy just in the landscape and in
Mm.
the feeling when
Yeah.
when you're there. And that was just something that I felt like would bring us straight into the tone of the film, which is quite gentle, a bit dreamy, and a bit raw.
Yeah.
So,
There is
yeah.
something about the other. I think it's just got so many like magical things. It's got like the fairy pools and the fairy rings, and then it has this
Mhm.
kind of like very like Lord of the Rings mountain range in the middle, and then you've got to either take a ferry or this like sort of mythical bridge to get over there. And then it's just really quaint, and it's that mix of like raw but magical. And it really does.
Absolutely.
It elevates the film, and it sort of immediately puts you somewhere. It's one of my favorite places in Scotland. But
Yeah.
I love the fact that you sort of wrote the film and then homed in on something, because I think that's a great way to do that. Just ideas sort of let them flow into you, and then find the location once you got a sense of something. It's very intuitive, and I think it makes something that feels very personal. Um, yeah. So let's talk about personalizing it, because I mean, from a story perspective, it's on the one hand like the most romantic film in the world, but then on the other hand, you've got two characters that have very dysfunctional like traits at times. One sort of dealing with their grief, and the other one with an ex-boyfriend. I mean, it really hits the grey areas. What was the process in the actual narrative sort of story, and making that feel so real?
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to explore love with this film, and I wanted to tell a story about love, but I wanted to tell a very human story. So I knew that it wouldn't be like a rom-com superficial A plus B is probably C kind of thing, you know. Um I knew it would have to be something very honest. And being a human in this world means that you are dealing with all kinds of imperfections on your journey, and you basically just try to figure out how this human life works, and especially then when it comes to connections between people, you are getting reflected so much of, how you show up for yourself in your life, how you show up for others in your life. And I think, to me personally, the beauty about my two main characters, Ian and Kira, was always that they do connect very strongly in their lack of self-love and their lack of self-worth. And I think that is really something that we all, like all of us humans, go through exactly the same experience of, um, trying to accept ourselves more and more and more. And it's so, can I swear on this
Yeah, you
podcast?
swear away.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Okay, cool. It's so fucking hard. It's honestly so fucking hard. And that's, and that's why, when I started this story, the way that it was personal to me was basically that I had all these questions about love and about life and about the sense of us being in this world. And I realized, well, those were my very personal questions, but then there were also somehow the questions of the people around me, the people of my generation. And I basically gave my questions to Kira and Ian, to my two main characters, and just sent them on the journey, and was basically going like, okay, you guys go and find me some answers, please.
Here's your philosophy assignment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how it is. And I think that's why, yes, we're exploring a love story in this film, and it is, I agree with you, quite romantic at times, but then really we're exploring two self-love stories, and those come with a lot of pain and with suffering, and also with moments where I'd say as an audience we can really dislike our two main characters for certain things that they do. Do but then again, it just makes it more human.
Well,
And
I think it feels like a very mature. I mean, I think I like what you sort of saying about the lack of self-love. I think people's notions of what love is definitely changes when they get older. And I think usually there's like a lot more jading going on, like jaded about like, where you are in life, what everyone's like, what the reality of living and surviving and trying to be a creative and find someone that can fit around that kind of mess. And
yeah,
I think it's the maturity that is sort of really cool about this movie. It felt sort
and
of very,
I think
yeah,
people can just identify with the struggle, because like we come into this world and we kind of like pure and raw as children, and then at some point in all of our lives, this whole conditioning starts, this whole judgment starts, from others towards us, from ourselves towards us. Our whole school system is built on succeeding or failing, and this goes on and on and on like that in life. And then we come into adulthood, and now our generation has started to be like, or like was the first generation that was suddenly surrounded by things like social media and
yeah,
dating apps, which is obviously just more tools that bring more and more insecurity, because then you just feel like, oh, you're being chosen or you're not being chosen, and you have to present a certain version of yourself on those apps in your social media life. And there's just a form of functioning, and also in that way successing your way through life, which I think is just comes with so much pressure and so much feelings of not being enough
yeah,
for people. um and yeah, I guess that's also why I kind of liked for Kira and Ian to meet in a very old-fashioned way, to basically just run into each other. Um, I mean, they don't even do any kind of small talk. That's also why, and I think this is something that we can already say now. We later find out that they do live in the same city. They both live in London, but they
yeah.
don't know that about each other because they
Spoiler
didn't do
alert.
any
No,
of
it's not a
the.
spoiler.
No, I don't think I wouldn't say
It's a
it's a
micro
spoiler.
spoiler. It's not a spoiler. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But but yeah, so I think it, a, a little bit of my longing for a more analog
Mm,
way of living
yeah.
comes into the film, and I love that you pointed out the the atmosphere of the poster, which
Mm,
straight away told you indie film, because also to me that
good
is
indie film.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but that to me is really the beauty also about indie film, that I feel like they are allowed to be to have edges, let's
Mm,
say,
yeah. Yeah, they
um
can be complicated and they can have, yeah, challenging concepts and people that aren't
exactly,
perfect, and you can kind of get
exactly.
away with it. I mean, I
Yeah.
like what you said about, because I think what you don't put into a film, that to me is always, it comes down to film taste. And what the notion is, and I'm the same. I love the sort of old Hollywood romance, and maybe a generation before sort of the social media kind of world, because it did feel like more authentic adventures and connections with people. But even though it does feel like a movie that isn't remotely set in a different time, it also removes all of those things. And I think those decisions, creative decisions of what you don't put in, like, huge amounts of phone use, or, you know, all the sort of Instagram and all that kind of thing, it immediately sort of elevates it to me into more like traditional cinema, which then is more immersive, and it's not this kind of self-reflective social media world that sort of it's
Yeah.
become, which doesn't work in film very well for me, at least. I find it very distracting and uncinematic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I think we're all so addicted to our phones, and
Yeah,
we don't even
yeah,
realize when our finger clicks on the social media apps, you know. And I feel exactly the same. I, I, it's kind of okay if I sit at home on my couch and the phone is next to me anyway, and whenever I watch TV or something and I lose interest a little bit, obviously my hand goes to my phone.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to say I do a lot of meditation, but there are certain things that I have to say I'm also human.
Yeah,
But when I am sitting in a cinema, and that's why I love the cinema, and that's
yeah,
why I just pray to all the gods that cinema will never disappear. Is it is it is a safe space. It is a place where dreams can be lived for the amount of time that you sit in there, where you don't grab your phone, where you do not seek distraction, where you just are being pulled into the story. And that is something that I think we don't get that much anymore.
yeah.
Our way of perceiving is so quick. Like, I think what the younger generation are now feeding themselves with is obviously, clips, clips, clips,
Yeah.
like YouTube and I don't know, TikTok or whatever it's all called. So it's like fast, it's like short, and I think that really changes the brain and our
Oh,
way
yeah.
of connecting with something on a deep level.
Yeah.
So,
Because you need space. You need space for these like magic, out of chance kind of encounters to happen.
exactly.
Exactly. So let's talk about the actors. Obviously, you're one half of the very good acting duo. How did you sort of develop this relationship and cast? I mean, how did you cast Chris? I mean, how did that sort of come about? And then how did you build what this relationship was, and like how much time did you spend like getting to know each other in advance? Did you not do that deliberately so that you could? Because it's an interesting thing to navigate as an actor and a director.
Absolutely. There's a lot of gold in your question, so I'm
Oh, good.
trying to go bit by bit.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we worked with a casting director, Des Hamilton, who's very well known in London, in the UK. I mean, internationally as well. He also works a lot internationally, but for me, it was important to find someone who has a Scottish background. I like that for the story, and then I I just loved the film that Des had cast, and I just knew that if as a first time director coming from another country, if I want agents and actors to actually read my script, it can only be helpful if someone is attached who is someone where agents go like, "Oh, this is coming from Des Hamilton, so
Mm,
something profound needs to be here."
yeah.
And and so because of that, we were so lucky that we actually got all the actors that we were interested in. We got them into the room. I was able to do auditions with them, and I auditioned in
In character?
in a more European way, I would say, because
Okay.
it's a kind of way of auditioning that I was reflected back that is not the normal in the UK. Like usually auditions are quite quick in the UK, and I basically came in there and I said, okay, for auditioning the main role, Ian, I want 1.5 hours or 2 hours with each actor,
Wow.
and they were obviously like, okay, what is she gonna do? And then basically I did already in the audition. I already worked with a lot of improvisation there
Mhm.
because I knew that improvisation would be one of the tools, one of the languages that I would want to use when we're filming.
Mm.
Because very often, there's a magic in first time moments that you just never get again. So the first time that an actor says a line, or the first
Yeah.
time that they find themselves in a scene, very often these moments just just disappear in the rehearsal process, and then you're ready to shoot, and then it has already become a little bit flat, right?
Yeah.
So that was something that I already tried out in the audition process, and then obviously I went in already as Kira into the scenes, and when it came to the character of Ian, the most important thing was really not only to find someone who would be able to carry the complexity of the character, but also someone who would have strong chemistry with myself, because you know, again, not to spoiler anything, but we have two people meeting, and then we see them going into their own lives, and we don't know if they will ever run into each other again. So basically, we needed to make sure that we are rooting for those two as the audience.
Mm.
And and then Chris was just someone who first of all came in as a very strong actor, like very talented. He brought amazing humor, the depths and the vulnerability that the character Ian also has, and also the entertaining bit, let's say, because the character is someone who well, we can say blinds people with his ability to be very performative and charming and fiery.
Yeah.
So we needed all of this, and that is quite complex. And Chris Fulton was just someone, where we saw all of that, and then at the same time, him and I just had a super beautiful level of really a really good humor together, and that was
That's, I
something.
mean, that's one of the biggest things, I think. It's
Yeah.
just, it's
That was something that we needed for those two characters, because this is what connects them right at the beginning, the ability to be just quite silly together.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, how do you sort of get around the whole idea of not getting to know each other too much? I mean, what was it all in the script? Like did you plan out like dialogue to a big degree, or was it mostly just what you wanted to sort of get out of the scenes in a sort of general sense, and then improvising and letting it flow? Because I mean, like some of the bits, like when you're dancing in the street and when you sort of first leave the pub, that sort of feels like, how would you have done that without?
Right. Well, first of all, with all of the cast, I did not really rehearse any scenes. What I did, I did rehearsals, but that was more prepping everyone for the characters, for the connections that the different characters have. But I did work a lot with, a more body-focused work, where often we just took away the speech and just went into just the feeling of a scene, how far our bodies apart from each other, how close are they within a room, just trying to find out the essence of a situation and of two characters without already rehearsing the dialogue.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure that all the actors were prepped so that on the day we wouldn't have to lose time basically by answering essential questions.
Yeah.
So we were actually going into everything before. And then when it came to, for example, the scene that you're just mentioning with Chris, it's a scene where they, just for the people who haven't seen the film yet at this point, it's a scene
they
where
should have seen the film. Let's go and watch
yeah,
it. Yeah.
but yeah, exactly.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least now in this moment they must go,
Yeah.
oh, now I need to see the scene.
Yeah.
But basically so they're in the street, they play this little game where they give each other how do you say oh God, I'm so sorry.
Improvisations or prompts or
Yeah, exactly. They just give each other these ideas of what they need to be, what the next thing to do is.
yes.
We're being very mysterious here, but anyway. So I basically asked Chris. I said to him, "Okay, so look, this is in the script. Do you find these things funny? Do you, are these things playful to you, or what ideas do you have?" And then in the end, we did use some things from the script and some things that he brought in, some things that I in the moment thought was really funny and brought in, and then and I guess that's why it feels quite real in the moment, because we actually had fun. Like we actually thought it was so silly what we were doing. And that obviously really helps when it's, after midnight and everyone is tired. It helps if you find something real and truthful in the moment that brings joy. That's always a good thing. Yeah.
Was there anything after the sort of the main shoot, or as you were going along, that you were thinking, okay, this is great, but this isn't quite working, or I feel like this should go in a different direction? Was there sort of any major shifts that sort of happened between the planned filming and how the edit sort of ended up, like pickup days or U-turns or that kind of stuff?
No, we did not have any money for pickup days.
Oh,
So
okay.
even if we would have wanted to repeat something, it wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you do find money then if you need to,
If you need to,
yeah, but no, that was not necessary. Of course, a film changes extremely in the editing process, only just for the fact that you have to lose so much material.
Yeah.
So when we first came into the edit room, the film was 3 hours, so we had to lose like 1 hour and 15, 20
3
minutes.
hours. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that's also kind of normal. So you just, you just have to say goodbye to a lot of things in the edit.
Yeah.
But no, to be honest with you, when I first wrote the script, I had a certain feeling. It was less a very clear visual idea, but more a feeling towards the story. And then obviously people come on board. You have faces and voices to the characters. You suddenly have a production designer who, paints the walls in a certain color. You suddenly have composers who bring in, an atmosphere in their music towards certain. Bring on board. Obviously, the film changes again and again and again, and
it's a sort of director filter, really, isn't it? Sort of
exactly.
Yeah.
And even when you, as the director, of course, are someone who takes the responsibility for artistic guidance, but still, I believe that you need to have a trust in your film, as in the right thing for the film will happen, and just be very open to what people bring to the table. And I think I was just very lucky with people like John Hopkins and Ben Lucas Boysen for the music, Andy Drummond as a production designer,
music was great. Yeah.
my cinematographer. I just had just very, very good people to bring that talent to this film. And yeah.
What sort of point did you bring in producer notes? Like, did you sort of ask to get like a certain trim down before you brought them in, or did you just shove 3 hours on them and say, "Give me your notes"? Like, at what point did they jump in and sort of give their feedback? Because it's nice to set your vision as intended to a degree first, and then sort of go from there.
I mean, the super nice thing was that with my German producer Yvonne McWelly and my Scottish producer John McKay, we had a really strong collaboration already on script level. So already on script level, you basically align with your producers and you make sure that you want to tell the right story, because then also your producers will suggest certain team members to you, or you want to have the same favorite person. If you cast for a certain role, ideally you want everyone to want the same person. So you do align in the process already. And then when it came to filming, one of my producers was always on set, and they also really, really trusted me, which I'm so grateful for.
Mm.
But I also knew they are always in the background, and if I need them, I can always ask. And if they feel like I'm missing something or something's not going in the right direction, I was always so happy for them to step in and go like, Eileen, do you maybe want to do another take?
Yeah.
So it really, yeah.
I think you need to do another take.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky to, because obviously you want to be assured and confident in your character and also in yourself as a director. But then there is an element where obviously you're in the moment and you're acting, and you've got to really trust that the people in the background are both going to understand enough to let you do what you're trying to do, but also point out if it's maybe sliding or something you've missed. So you have to really trust whoever you've nominated as your kind of behind the camera second voice, I guess,
Absolutely.
when you're actor directoring.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, again, I will swear, I'm really sorry, but it's so fucking hard to make a film. It's so hard. And like sometimes when I hear stories of, other directors who've had like a really difficult time with their producer or something, I cannot even imagine how it is possible to then still make a film, because already when you have amazing producers, it's still so hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Extra level of horror to
Yeah,
deal with.
yeah, exactly.
It's just like slightly less PTSD when you've got good producers to having like not helpful ones. But yeah, it is. I mean, getting any film is tough. And I mean, especially like just drama is just the toughest. And it always just seems like a real hurdle. I mean, was it tough to get people, to get it financed and to get these producers on board in the first place and to convince them that it was going to be successful? I mean, how were you just really good at pitching, and how did you sort of do that?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, the script spoke for itself, because my producers, at first I got my German producers on board, and they read the script and they were basically like, okay, can we meet you? Okay, we want to do this. So that was quite, I didn't have to say much. They were already like, yes, we want to do this.
That's amazing,
so that was great. Then, then the finding the money is obviously a different topic. And I can tell you, it has again changed so much in the last 3 years. Like I'm now at the very beginning of the whole process of finding money for my next feature film.
Yeah.
And it
in
has
Scandinavia.
Yes, exactly. And it has become even so much harder in the last 3 years, with this whole streamer bubble bursting and so much leaving the market, all these strikes and everything. So really, again, the market for indie films has changed again, and it's not becoming. Yeah, absolutely. But even 4 years ago, when we were packaging Falling Into Place, it was not the easiest task for my producers, because we were financing the majority out of Germany, and it is a story in the English language that is set in Scotland and in London, with 99% non-German cast. And like a big part with Scottish team. So it was really like, I'm really impressed with my producers that they found really good partners for us. The way you package in Germany is that you usually have to get broadcasters on board. We had WDR and Arte and SR on board for that. And then we had North Rhine-Westphalian Film Fund. And in the end, we had some Screen Scotland money as well.
Which is very hard to get, actually. So,
which is very hard to get. Yes, I was being told. But that came at the very end and was obviously super, super helpful. But it's definitely, with indie films, it's definitely puzzling it together and finding money in different places, and it takes time. And
it does feel like the co-pro sort of thing is that feels like the way forward with like in indies, especially in dramas. Even bigger stuff is like splitting the risk more on that seems to be like the more comfortable way forward for investors. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, just to sort of finish up, is there anything maybe you've learned particularly from this first time directing, or in general, that any bits of advice that you'd like to offer for aspiring filmmakers?
Well, 100% a film is a collaboration of every person you bring on board.
Yeah.
So, like, I was the luckiest person ever with my team and with my cast, with my producers for this first film, and it did show me, especially when you do your first film or when you do an indie film where you do not have enough money, you never really have enough money. You need to find people who really, really want to do this film and who do it for the right reason, you know.
Mm,
Um, and then I think the other thing that I learned is that you, as a director, you have to stay true to yourself. Like you just very simply said, you have to stay true to your own taste
mm,
because in the process of making it, there's a lot of voices, there's a lot of opinions,
yeah,
there's a lot of people with experience who all want to, um, you know, put their influence.
yeah,
Into your creation, and you really have to stick to your intuition. I think that's something that, yeah, that you can then be sure about, that you stay true to the story you want to tell.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Excellent
this,
advice.
this would
Well,
be my little piece of advice here towards the end.
stay true to yourself. I like that. That's a
Yeah,
good ending point.
that's a good advice anyway. Also, in life and for the rest
Well,
of
yeah,
life, it's also very helpful.
try and stay
Yeah,
true to yourself. Amazing.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Eileen. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, and well done on making a very good film that is genuinely very captivating and yeah, impactful and great. Keep making movies
Thanks
like
a
this.
lot. Yeah, okay, will do.